So today we're talking about multi-step equations. We're going to take all of the stuff we've learned in this chapter about equations, about adding, subtracting in equations, and multiplying, dividing in equations, and we're going to apply them to problems that require you to do more complicated things, not just one operation. So I'm going to show you a couple different ways to do this multi-step problem. A caterer is making 3 trays of 24 sandwiches and 2 trays of 30 sandwiches. She receives an order for 35 sandwiches. How many sandwiches S does the caterer have left? Well, I'm going to start out doing this step by step. The first part of this says a caterer is making 3 trays of 24 sandwiches, 3 trays of 24. So I'm going to do that part first. Step 1. 3 trays of 24 would be 3 times 24. And if I did that, I would get 72. Okay. Now let's take a look at the next step. And she also is making 2 trays of 30 sandwiches. So, step 2 is 2 times 30, which is 60. Okay. The next step says she receives an order for 35 sandwiches. Let's say she receives an order for 35 sandwiches. And how many does she have left? Well, I know I can figure out how many she's made because this pink and orange tells me how many she's made. So if I add these together, that tells me how many she has. And 35 sandwiches is how many she sold. So we would subtract that in order to find out how many she had left. And I would get 97 sandwiches. Okay, so that's one way of doing it. You just kind of highlight each part and if you notice each part is really simple. I could even actually put a fourth step. I could say this is step 3, this is step 4. And then each step will just have one operation. It's a very simple equation, very easy to do. So here's another way of doing it. You can just make one big long equation and just bang out the answer in one fell swoop. You don't have to have a bunch of steps. Either way will help you solve the problem. You just do whatever you're comfortable with. So here's how you do it. You look at the parts that we've already highlighted. 3 trays of 24. So I have 3 times 24 and 2 trays of 30. That's 2 times 30. Well, these are both what she made, so I'm going to add these together. I don't need to add parentheses because these, I know that multiplication comes first in PEMDAS anyway, but you can. Actually, it makes it a little clearer, so I'm going to put the parentheses. She receives an order for 35 sandwiches. Well, I'm going to take away 35 sandwiches from that. You could put brackets around these two if you wanted to, but if you use PEMDAS, it'll actually give you the same answer either way. It's your choice. How many does she have left? Well, this expression tells me how much she had left, and the letter is S. That stands for sandwiches. And so we have the entire problem in one big equation here. And if we just use PEMDAS to break this down into a single answer, we will get our answer. Let's do that. 3 times 24 is, we already did that, so that is 72. Notice I'm doing multiplication first. Actually, these are in parentheses. That's why I'm doing it first. But if they didn't have parentheses, I would still do it first because these are multiplication. 2 times 30 is 60. So these are added together, and then we subtract 35. 72 plus 60 is 132. And if we subtract 35, we already did that math, so I'll just say 77 sandwiches. So, 2 different ways of doing it. One big equation that you can just kind of do all at once, or you can just step by step 3 separate, very small equations that are very easy to do individually. We'll do one more. A baseball league has a total of 156 players. The players are divided into 12 equal teams. Each team has 3 coaches. All the players and coaches receive 2 jerseys. How many jerseys, Jay, will each team receive? Okay, so that's a lot of information. I'm going to highlight the first part. Baseball league has a total of 156 players, and they're divided into 12 equal teams. Okay, so step 1, we have, it says that we're dividing them into 12 equal teams, so 156 divided by 12 would tell me how many players are in each team. So let me do the long division here. 12 goes into 15 one time. 12 goes into 36 3 times. So I have 13 players per team. Okay. So now I have, each team has 3 coaches. So there's 3 coaches. It's not telling me to do anything with those yet. All players and coaches receive 2 jerseys. Okay. So 3 coaches. Well, let me make that a different color. 2 jerseys. All players and coaches receive 2 jerseys. How many will each team receive? So I need to know how many t-shirts are on one team. Well, we figured out how many players are on one team. And we know how many coaches are on one team, so we add these together. So there's 19 people per team. And all players and coaches receive 2 jerseys. So step 3, since there's 19 people, we would multiply that by 2. And they would need 38 jerseys for everyone to get 2. 13 players, 3 coaches, 2 per person, 38 jerseys. Okay? So each step here is pretty simple. Each individual step is pretty simple. So now we are going to put this in one big equation. That's another way of doing it. You do whatever you're comfortable with. Okay. Baseball league has a total of 156 players divided into 12 teams. So 156 divided by 12. Each team has 3 coaches, and all players and coaches receive 2 jerseys. So I'm going to say, well, this is the number of players, this is the number of coaches in one team, and I need to give everyone 2 jerseys. So I'm going to take that whole thing, I'm going to multiply it by 2, and that will give me the number of jerseys, J. Okay, so let's do this using PEMDAS. We do the parentheses first, and inside the parentheses, we also do PEMDAS inside the parentheses. We do division first. 156 divided by 12, we know that is 13. We already did that. So now I have 13 plus 3 inside parentheses times 2, and now I do what's inside the parentheses. I have 16. Now it's times 2, and that gives me 38 when I multiply it, and 38 jerseys. Okay, 2 ways to do multi-step problems. Always break it down into parts. Don't freak out if you see this. Just break it down into smaller pieces.